Good morning, guys. What's going on? Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not really going to be about how much we're making, but it's going to be more about what orders you should take and the logic behind the orders that I take. So speaking of logic, we already have this first order here from Chipotle showing $6.25, less than a mile. So this is kind of obvious, right? The miles to the dollar ratio are really good, right? You're going to drive basically a mile, you're going to get $6.25, if not more. So these are the orders that I would call ideal, you know, because they're low mileage, they're quick. So you know, you could knock, if you could get 3 or 4 of these an hour, you know, even if you don't get anything on top, you're still gonna make $24 plus, you know. So these are the orders that ideally I wish I would get all the time, because they're, you know, small, simple, quick, you know. So it's not like you're gonna go there and wait forever for the food. Now, granted, Chipotles are different everywhere. My Chipotle in my area is pretty good, so I can't say that all Chipotles are good because I know that's not true. But anyways, let me get this dropped off and we'll catch you guys. So we're about to pull up to the customer's house, and DoorDash keeps sending me stack offers, right? Now, not all of them are equal. Look at the first one they sent me. I didn't take this. Why would I take a $4.72? That means basically no tip, because when they send you a stack order, the base pay is lowered by $1. You know, they try to be slick and saving $1. Right? But then look at the other order they sent me that I did accept, showing also $6.25, a mile plus. So why not, right? Let me get this dropped off. So you guys have to, you know, be very aware of is the restaurants. Now, I'm sure if you're not new, this kind of doesn't really apply to you. But we obviously, when you first start, you don't know who's slow, you don't know who's quick, all that good stuff. Obviously, you can probably have some type of sense in your mind, like, okay, if I go to a sit-down restaurant, that's clearly going to be a lot longer. But if you go to like McDonald's, in theory, they should be faster. Now, that's not always the case, because McDonald's can also be very, very slow. So anyways, you know, it'll be a learning experience when you first start dashing, what restaurants to go, which ones not to go, all that good stuff. But we're about to pull up to the bento house, you know, and that was a great stack order, because not only did it give me another order right away after dropping off that one, but it's only a mile plus, and it's still pretty good. $6.25 minimum, you know, so that's not bad. It's one of those things you got to think about. You don't want to take no tip offers. You don't want to reward that kind of behavior from customers. And that might sound kind of weird, but you know, it's the principle of it, right? If you're going to order a delivery service, I would consider that a premium. So if you can't afford a tip, then you shouldn't be ordering, you know. Obviously, people still do that because there's people out there that still take the orders, you know. So it's like, they're doing it because they can get away with it, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, let me go get this picked up here. I'm just parked, and then we'll keep them picked up here. It was ready. We're 3 minutes away from the drop-off. Now, another thing you want to think about when you take orders is the drop-off. Now, for example, I don't ever go to hospitals. I don't care how good the offer looks, because not only have I gotten burned in the past with hospitals, meaning that they might not tip you all that well, but to get into them, to get out of them, is like a maze in my experience. Now, I'm not saying that's every hospital, but I tend to avoid situations like that. Schools, you know, those can be hit or miss. Now, they're mostly more, you know, not really misses. They're really more a preference thing, you know, because especially like, you know, if they give you good instructions like where to go, who to talk to, all that stuff, then it's not a problem. You know, the problem is when there's no direction given and then you're just put up to a school. Nowadays, you can't just walk into a school anymore. It's not like it used to be, for safety reasons, obviously. You know, so those are two places I never go to. But airports, if you have any airports in your area. Now, personally, I've never been to an airport in my area, because going to an airport normally is like a hassle. So I'm not going to go out there and deliver food at the airport. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm sure somebody does, because these people keep ordering, but not me. Just dropped off that order. Another thing you want to be wary of is the location of your drop-off. Meaning, like, if you drop off the food, how long is it going to take you to get back into an area where you're getting orders? Because if not, you know, that's a lot of dead miles. You're not making any money while you're driving back. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the biggest things I feel like people don't really think about, is the aspect of the time. Because you know, they don't pay you by the hour. You know, so you gotta really be your own boss in that regard of, like, you know, no one's telling you what orders to take. You know what I'm saying? So you have to mentally tell yourself, okay, if I do this and I do that, you know, does that make sense? You know, especially with the gas prices now, you know, so I don't think you should be doing any order less than $6.25, and that's better be like, you know, low mileage, you know. Unless, of course, it's like dead times, and that's something we'll talk about when we do come to the dead times, which will happen in a little bit. But yeah, right now I'm still declining a bunch of stuff. Everything's just going way too far. So like if you see this order, sorry for the glare, that's way too far. Showing 1225, 6.7 miles, and it's from On the Border. On the Border is one of those restaurants that I don't go to anymore because they're really, really slow, and every time I give them a chance, they always fail me. So unless it's super dead, like if it was between 2 and 5 and I'm not getting any orders and that order came through, I might have taken it because in theory it shouldn't be busy because it's slow, you know. But right now, technically still peak lunchtime at 12:05. I'm not gonna waste my time there. I'd rather you know, wait for something better. But you know, today's one of those days where I'm not really getting a lot of good orders. But you know, those days will happen. You know, so you really have to give yourself little goals. That's what I do. That's what works for me. Now, that doesn't mean that it's gonna work for you. It doesn't mean that your area is as busy as mine, or maybe yours is busier. You know, it's all relative to where you're located. So you know, these are just things that I think in general could help you make more money, because that's what we want to do. We want to make more money, right? So I think ideally you should shoot for at least $20 plus an hour. I think that should take you about three or 4 orders an hour, and that can be kind of hard to do, you know, because if you waste a lot of time, you know, waiting for food, doing drop-offs, you're driving a lot of miles, you know. But for some people, that could be 2 orders. You know, you could be in a nice area where people tip a lot, you know, or you could get lucky and get a couple big orders, you know, which does happen. You know, we saw yesterday I had a $75 tip. Now that's crazy to me, you know, but it doesn't happen every day. Anyways, I'm gonna see if I can find a place to park here, and then we'll wait for the next one. I took this next order here. Now let me give you my logic. Now, some people could disagree. That's fine, but it's my dash. You know, I'm taking orders that I want to take. So I took this order for $6.75, 3.5 miles. Now the miles a little bit heavy, right, for lunchtime, but it's also been at least 7 minutes, and I haven't taken a single order. Now I know that I can go to this place, the food will be ready, and I can drop it off in about 12 to 13 minutes. So now that's something that you want to think about. You know, once you know your restaurants well enough, like I know this place well enough to know that the food is ready. You know, and I know that I can knock it out pretty quick, and we're at least gonna make $6.75, so we're at least gonna be in the $20 ratio, or $20 an hour. You know, for my first full hour. You know, so that's why I'm taking it. You know, now I could sit there and decline and maybe get something better, but that's not always guaranteed. You know. Now going back to the miles thing, right? Now you should always track your miles. Doesn't matter what app you use. I like to use Gridwise. Gridwise does a really good job of integrating with your Dash, Grubhub, all the other apps, and they do a nice like recap for you the next day, so you'll see how many miles you drove, all that, how many trips, hourly, all that stuff. And most of the apps do that anyways, but you should always track it, you know, for come Uncle Sam time. Now I'm not gonna give you any tax advice because I'm not a tax professional, but I should definitely. The only advice that I would give you is definitely get with a tax professional when it does come tax time, because there's nothing worse than owing money, because we're here in the business of making money. But with all that being said, always track your miles. So we're about to get to the restaurant here in about 2 to 3 minutes, and that'll put us, if I can drop this off in the next, it'll put us at about $20 an hour, assuming that there isn't something more on top of this order, which is why I'm taking it. So I don't have a crappy hour, if that makes sense. So we just picked up the order. We're about 5 minutes away. So, you know, we're doing pretty good time. One more thing that I wanted to talk about real quick was your acceptance rating does not matter. Okay? Now, this last week we did a challenge. My acceptance rating went as high as like 17%, and currently it's sitting at 4%. It doesn't affect your chances of getting any orders. Obviously, I don't have any like actual data to back that up, but I have over 14,000 deliveries. So let me tell you that it doesn't matter, you know. And anyone that tells you that it does is either on DoorDash's payroll or just wrong. You know, it doesn't do anything. I mean, other than, it's weird. It's like a metric that is meant to trick you mentally to be like, you know what? I don't want it to be red. Let's accept orders so it's green, you know. Now, Top Dasher, I don't really know anyone that's a Top Dasher. I don't really know anyone that could be a Top Dasher because most of the orders aren't really that good. So you would purposely have to be taking bad orders, make less money to get that title, which is crazy to me. But hey, if that works for you, then, you know, it works for you. But I'm just saying, in a realistic world, in a perfect world, Top Dashers don't exist. At least not in my area. You know what I'm saying? because it doesn't make sense for you to take $275, $450, $350, and those orders do exist. It's not like we're just making it up. Like, people out there genuinely ordering food and not tipping anything. Now, you could argue and say, hey, maybe they get a cash tip. I could argue and say that's probably like 10% of the time they give you a cash tip, and the other rest out of luck, you know. But there's definitely a lot of tools you can use, you know, to better your knowledge when it comes to dashing. There's plenty of YouTubers, there's Facebook groups, you can Google stuff, you know. But sometimes you just have to go out there and do it, you know, make your own mistakes, you know. Remember the first time I ever dashed, it was a Wendy's order, right? And I had no idea that you were supposed to like use like the red card and how that worked. I remember going there like super clueless. Eventually I figured it out, and now it's to the point where I don't even go to Wendy's at all. It's one of those restaurants that I blacklisted because they're just not very good. But anyways, we're about 2 minutes from the drop out. It dropped off, ended up being just $6.75, so we're sitting at $20.25 for our first hour, basically on the dot. So you know what? Not the greatest hour, but a very acceptable hour for sure. You know, we just made $20 doing 3 orders. You know, so yeah. Also, one other thing to think about when you take orders is high items, like a high item count, does not mean that it's a high paying order, right? They could be sauces. You know, like Taco Bell is notorious for that. You have like 35 items, and then like 33 of them are like hot sauce, you know? So it's one of those things. Now, I have an Android, so it has a widget where you can minimize when you're doing the order, you minimize it and it shows you the items. I don't think there's anything like that for iPhone. So it's one of those things that you might have to just learn by trial and error if you do have an iPhone. Now, I do know a lot of people that simply either buy like a cheap Android, you know, or they just find something like you know, like an older phone that can still run DoorDash, and then just give hotspot from their own phone. That way they basically have that. I mean, I basically have my tablet, my dashing phone, which is my personal phone. I have my old phone that I record with, you know, but if I need to, I could turn the Dasher app on my old phone because it can still run it, you know. And I don't do that often, but sometimes the app is glitching and I want to see if it's my phone, if it's the connection. Most of the time it's DoorDash because their app isn't very stable, but that's another conversation for another time. But you know, I think when you first start out, the most basic thing you need to know is always track your miles. That's number one. You know, after the miles is, you know, don't ever take anything lower than 625. I mean, yeah, there's people that are gonna say, well, I take a 575 sometimes and it's, you know, less than a mile. I'm like, yeah, those do exist. Now, I rarely like doing those because it feels weird. Like, it feels like you're kind of cheapening yourself, you know? Even though that probably doesn't sound right, or some people are gonna be like, I'm crazy. But sometimes when you see that, I'm like, man, do I wanna move for 575 or 525? Like, I'd rather just sit here and not do anything and wait for something a little bit better, you know, that could take more time, you know. So it all depends on what you need at the moment, I guess. But I wouldn't recommend doing those because you're probably going to be disappointed when you don't get any more on top. Now, DoorDash always likes to play games. Super notorious for hiding the tips, you know. So obviously, I'm pretty sure there's a potential for every order to be more than what is shown, right? The only times, in my experience, that I've ever seen them truly release the payout is when the order is going really, really, really far. You know, I feel like that's the only way that people actually take the order, because they see the actual payout. You're not going to take a 10-mile order for $6.25 on the off chance that maybe there is a better order. I don't know what's going on with the app again, but it keeps pausing me. So, you know, see? One of those days. Anyways, let me get another order here. Let me pull over to the side somewhere and just kind of wait for an order, because it's kind of pissing me off that it keeps saying I'm paused, but I haven't missed any orders. So we'll see you guys later here. I'm having major app issues with my location. Now, that happens a lot for whatever reason with DoorDash, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I took this order showing 854 miles. Best order I've seen in about 10 minutes, and I don't want to not do anything for the next 10 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and take it. I know the food's ready because Sweet Green is one of those merchants that the food's always ready. So anytime I see anything from them, it's awesome. Now, I wish it was a little less miles, but you know, it can't always be perfect. So I'm about to go pick that up. What am I talking about? See you guys in that. We're about 10 minutes away, or 4 miles, so not the greatest miles, obviously, but you gotta put that into perspective, right? I'm having a lot of app issues. I'm not getting decent orders that I would normally take. So you have to, it kind of becomes a moment of, do you not do anything for the next 5-10 minutes, or do you at least make something, you know? And that's my logic. Everybody is different, you know? I know people that don't move for orders that are not like $10 or higher. So no, they do a lot of time sitting, you know? But that works for them. There's people that dash from their house. They don't leave their house until they get a good order, you know? It's all different. It's so relative. That's what I'm saying. There's orders out here for everybody, you know? There's zero reason why when you see a new dasher you shouldn't help them out, because it's a job, you know. Everyone wants to make money. It's not like they're taking your money, you know. And I feel like that's a lot of like not perspective, but that's kind of the perception a lot of like older dashers have. And it's like, oh, you know, they're gonna come and steal my orders and this and that. I'm like, they're probably gonna do orders that you don't do anyways, you know. Like I'm telling you, I don't go to Wendy's ever. I don't care how good the order looks. I don't care if it's a mile, if it's like 575 feet. I just don't go to Wendy's. I don't go to Wendy's. I don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. You know, there's a couple of local places I don't go to because of bad experiences in the past, where you're just waiting, wasting all this time, and the next time is the same or worse, and then you're like, okay, the first 2 times, you know what, I gave them a chance. The third time it'll be on me, so I'm not gonna give them that third time. You know. Then again, it's all relative, you know. But yeah, anyways, we're gonna go ahead and drop this off. I'm probably not gonna drag this out for too long because it'll be a very long video. So yeah, one last thing to end the video here. It's just not like an hour long. Just don't be afraid to dash in different areas, different zones than your own. I don't dash in the area that I live in. I'll dash like 15 minutes away, mainly because there's more restaurants here and it's a wealthier area, you know. So, you know, maybe that could be the case for you, just because you know, you don't have to dash where you live necessarily. You can dash actually anywhere in the US, which is pretty awesome with DoorDash. But yeah, you know, so it could make financial sense for you to drive 20 minutes one way and make more money. You know, I've always been tempted to go to like DC and dash there, but I'm like, the parking and like, you know, the buildings, and you know, I'm like, why even do that when I have it pretty decently in my own area, you know? But you know, these are just kind of things that I came up with on the spot that I use on the daily to help me dash. You know, the logic that I use to take the orders that I do take, or you know, or what's it called, decline the orders that I do decline, because you know, you have to do what's best for you, and no one knows that better than you, to be honest. So, you know, go out there, test it out, check out the restaurants that, you know, and then sometimes even the ones you never heard of, or the ones that you were on the fence about, just at least go there once, you know, see how it is. Worst case scenario, it sucks, you never go back. But it could be good, and then you go back a lot, you know. So anyways, we'll see you guys on the next video. Be safe out there.